This chapter is on the physical and cognitive development in early childhood. Some of the things that are happening in early childhood, physically, the body is growing and changing. The average growth is about 2.5 inches and 5 to 7 pounds per year during early childhood. Of course, the growth patterns can vary individually. There's the two most important contributing factors to height differences are ethnic origin and also nutrition. How a child eats, are they getting the proper nutrition, are they taking vitamins, things like that. And also brain growth slows down during childhood. It reaches about 95% of its adult volume by the age of 6 years old. Children should be sleeping about 11 to 13 hours each night without interruptions. Some sleep problems can include narcolepsy, insomnia, nightmares, things like that. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine offers some tips that can help children sleep better. And that includes following a consistent bedtime routine. So basically going to sleep at the same time every night and setting aside 10 to 30 minutes to get a child ready to go to sleep each night. Because sometimes it can be a process. A lot of times children don't want to go to sleep. So if you set their bedtime at least 10 to 30 minutes beforehand, that could get them into the mindset that they're going to go to sleep. And also establish a relaxing setting at bedtime. Don't have any radio on or any noises and things like that. Interact with the child at bedtime. This is kind of referring to a parent or a caregiver. So don't let the TV be on or computer games or anything like that take your place. Don't let that take a parent's place. And keep children from TV programs, movies, video games. Video games are very common these days for children. Also, don't let them view anything that's not appropriate for their age, because that can cause, if they're watching some like a really scary movie or playing a really violent video game, that can cause anxiety. And anxiety can be one of the reasons why children don't get enough sleep, and that keeps them up and awake at night. Don't let children fall asleep while being held, rocked, bottle fed, or while nursing, because then they get used to that, and then they'll need that. They'll need to have that every single time they're going to go to sleep. And if they don't have that, they won't be able to go to sleep. At bedtime, do not allow children to have food or drinks that contain caffeine, like chocolate and soda. And try not to give them any medicine that has a stimulant at bedtime. And basically, we all know that caffeine is a stimulant and that causes wakefulness. So it's kind of difficult to fall asleep if a child consumes caffeine or stimulant a few hours before bedtime. As far as illness and death in the United States, the leading cause of death in U.S. children are through motor vehicle accidents. The second one is cancer, and the third one is cardiovascular disease. Exposure to parental smoking is another major danger to children, because they get that secondhand smoke, and that can cause wheezing, asthma, and also nicotine. Since it's a stimulant, it can cause sleep problems. Also, lead poisoning there are 3 million children under the age of 6 that are thought to be in danger of that. And lead poisoning can lead to lower intelligence, lower achievement in school, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, high blood pressure, and also it's important that children get adequate medical care, regardless of whether there's a problem or not. So motor vehicle accidents is one of the major causes of deaths for children. more than 2/3 of fatally injured children were killed while riding with a drinking driver. So alcohol can be a part of the problem. Also, not properly using a child's seatbelt. Almost 40% of children riding with unbelted drivers were themselves unrestrained. So it's important that children wear their seatbelts. And also misuse of booster seats. Child restraint systems are often used incorrectly, and one study found that 72% of nearly 3,500 observed car and booster seats were misused in a way that could be expected to increase a child's risk of injury during a crash. So according to Piaget, children are going through what is known as the preoperational stage, and that lasts from about age 2 to age 7 for children. And language development is one of the hallmarks of this period. Piaget noted that children in this stage do not yet understand concrete logic. They can't mentally manipulate information, and they're unable to take the point of view of other people, which is called egocentrism. They During the preoperational stage, children become better at using symbols, and they're increasing their play and pretend during this period. So they're engaging in a lot of role play, and that becomes important during the preoperational stage. A lot of times you'll see children playing the role of a mom or a dad or a doctor or a banker or a teacher or many other things. Piaget used a number of creative and clever techniques to study the mental abilities of children. One of the famous techniques, egocentrism, involved using a three-dimensional display of a mountain scene. Children were asked to choose a picture that showed the scene that they had observed. Most children are able to do this with little difficulty. Next, children were asked to select a picture showing what someone else would have observed when looking at the mountain from a different viewpoint. Invariably, children almost always choose the scene showing their own view of the mountain scene. According to Piaget, children experience this difficulty because they're unable to take another person's perspective. And also another thing that's happening during this stage is animism, and that's the belief that inanimate objects have lifelike qualities and are capable of doing things like taking action. For example, a child might say, "That tree pushed the leaf off and it fell down," indicating that the tree has some ability to do something that do some kind of thing that an animate object would be able to do. The intuitive thought substage is where children use primitive reasoning and want to know the answers to questions. They have difficulty understanding events that cannot be seen. They also are unaware of how they know what they know, but they just know that they know it. Another well-known experiment involves demonstrating a child's understanding of conservation. In one conservation experiment, equal amounts of liquid are poured into two identical containers. The liquid in one container is then poured into a different shaped cup, such as a tall and a thin cup, or a short and a wide cup. Children are then asked which cup holds the most liquid. Despite seeing that the liquid amounts are equal, children almost always choose the cup that appears fuller. Piaget conducted a number of similar experiments on conservation of number, length, mass, height, volume, and quantity. Piaget found that few children showed any understanding of conservation prior to the age of 5 years old. Campbell and Ramy studied 111 families from low income areas. The mothers in that study had a mean IQ of 85. This is over an 8-year period. The newborns were randomly assigned to either a preschool experimental group or a preschool control group. The treatment intervention for the infants included child care programs designed to boost cognitive, perceptual, motor, language, and social skills. The intervention program for the preschoolers focused on development of language and preparing children for literacy tasks. The children in the preschool control group were provided with iron-fortified formula to eliminate early nutritional differences as a potential confound, and they did not receive any special programs. The researchers implemented a second randomization after the children reached school age. Half of the children from each group were assigned to either a school age intervention or a school age control group. The school age treatment involved special attention from a resource teacher. The activities involved were designed to increase specific learning skills like reading and math. And parents were visited twice a week to discuss the learning activities and to invite them to school events. The children in the school age control group did not receive any treatment. So based on the two random assignments, there were 4 groups that were formed. There was the experimental group, or the EE group, and that's where children received both the preschool and school age interventions. Then there was the experimental control group, or EC group, and these children only received the preschool intervention. Then there was the control experimental group, or the CE group, and these children only received the school age intervention. Then there was the control group, or CC group, and these children they didn't receive preschool or school age intervention. And Campbell and Ramy found that children in the preschool intervention group, they maintained significantly higher IQ scores and also math and reading performance scores than the control group. This is from age 18 months to 8 years old. And the researchers were interested to see if the early advantage held by the preschool intervention group was maintained following an additional 4 years of school. The advantage was children in the preschool treatment had significantly higher IQ scores, and the children that received the school age intervention but not the preschool intervention did significantly worse than both groups of the children who had the preschool intervention. The researchers found that the intensity and duration of the treatment intervention program significantly affected how well a child performed across all tests. The researchers found an overall trend for measures of IQ and test performance. So the EE group outperformed all other groups, and that was followed by the EC group, or the experimental control group, then the control experimental group, and then the control group lastly. These findings suggest that attempts to foster intellectual growth for children in impoverished environments within infancy may lead to longer lasting and more pronounced intellectual gains than programs later in life. And another conclusion from this study is that school age interventions may be too late to do much good. In 2002, Campbell reported further that the outcomes show that high quality educational childcare can make a dramatic difference in the lives of young adults reared in poverty. Individuals assigned to the preschool treatment group had, on average, significantly higher cognitive test scores as young adults than did untreated controls. They earned higher scores on tests of reading and mathematical skills. They also attained more years of education, and they were more likely to attend a 4-year college or a university. And they were also less likely to become teenage parents. Vygotsky views interaction with peers as an effective way of developing skills and strategies. He suggests that teachers use cooperative learning exercises where less competent children develop with the help from more skillful peers within the zone of proximal development. Vygotsky believed that when a student is at the zone of proximal development for a particular task, providing the appropriate assistance or what's known as scaffolding, that'll give the student enough of a boost to achieve the task. Once the student, with the benefit of scaffolding, masters the task, the scaffolding can then be removed, and then the student will be able to complete the task again on his own. So his idea was basically that children think and understand primarily through social interaction. And just to give you an example of that, let's think for a second. Imagine a girl named Maria. She's just entered college this semester, and she decides to take an introductory tennis course. Her class spends each week learning and practicing a different shot. Weeks go by and they learn how to properly serve and hit a backhand swing. During the week of learning the forehand, the instructor notices that Maria is very frustrated because she keeps hitting her forehand shots either into the net or far past the baseline. So the instructor examines her preparation and swing, and he notices that her stance is perfect. She prepares early, she turns on her torso the right way, and she hits the ball at precisely the right height. However, he notices that she's still gripping at her racket the same way she hits at her backhand swing. So he goes over to her and shows her how to reposition her hand to hit a proper forehand, stressing that she should keep her index finger parallel to the racket. He models a good forehand for her and shows her how it's done, and then assists her in changing her grip. Then with a little practice, Maria's forehand turns into a weapon for her. In this case, Maria was in the zone of proximal development for successfully hitting a forehand shot. She was doing everything else correctly, but she just needed a little coaching and a little scaffolding from a more knowledgeable other, that being her instructor, to help her succeed in that task. And when the assistance was given, she became able to achieve her goal. So the ZDP, or zone of proximal development, is a range of tasks that are too difficult for an individual alone, but that can be learned with guidance. And the scaffolding is changing the level of support during a teaching session. In Vygotsky's, some of his teaching strategies are to assess a child's zone of proximal development to determine what's the best level to begin instruction, and use the child's zone of proximal development in teaching. A child can reach the goal with help and move to a higher level of skill that way. And also using more skilled peers as tutors. in helping the child reach that higher level. And also place instruction in a meaningful context, something that matters to them. And also transform the classroom with Vygotsky's ideas. So Vygotsky and Piaget kind of differed a little bit in the way that they thought of things. Vygotsky had a strong emphasis in social cultural context, whereas Piaget placed little emphasis on that. For Vygotsky, he focused on the ZPD, language, dialogue, and tools of culture. And Piaget focused on schema, assimilation, accommodation, operations, conservation, and classification. As far as teaching implications, Vygotsky views the teacher as a facilitator and a guide, and not as a director. They establish many opportunities for children to learn with a teacher and more skilled peers. Piaget also views teacher as facilitator and guide, but not as a director. So the teacher provides support for children to explore their world and discover knowledge. Memory is the retention of information over time, and there's short-term and long-term memory. Short-term is individuals can retain information up to 30 seconds with no rehearsal or repeating. Speed and efficiency of memory processes improve with age and experience. So how accurate are young children's long-term memories? There are age differences in children's susceptibility to suggestion. And there are individual differences in susceptibility. Like preschoolers are the most suggestible age group. Some are highly resistant, though, to suggestibility. And that's believing a misleading info or event after it occurred. Interviewing techniques can produce substantial distortions in children's reports about highly salient events. So around age 18 months to 3 years old, children start to understand 3 mental states, and that's perceptions, desires, and emotions. At about age 3 to 5 years old, children start to understand false beliefs, or beliefs that aren't true, things that didn't really happen. At age 5 to 9 years old, children start to appreciate the mind. And over age 7, they start to understand the beliefs and thoughts of other people. So this is the movie suggestions related to this chapter. Lorenzo's Oil. It's a movie starring Susan Sarandon from 1992. It's about a boy named Lorenzo, and he's a normal child basically until the age of 7, where he begins to have blackouts, memory lapses, and other mental problems. He's diagnosed with something called ALD, which is a rare incurable degenerative brain disorder. And frustrated at the failings of doctors and the limited options concerning the disease, his parents begin to educate themselves in the hope of halting the progress of the disease. And these are some website suggestions related to the chapter, in case you might be interested in them. Some of them include child nutrition, early childhood and sleep, early childhood physical development, early learning and school readiness, exercise in early childhood, multiple intelligences in education, language development, lead exposure, theory of mind. There's a bunch of them that can be interestingly related to the chapter.